I'm going to call this meeting to order and we're going to do the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, Jonathan, you all set over there, pal? All right. Would anyone like to pull out anything from the consent agenda? Now would be the time. Not seeing any. I'll have a motion to approve the consent agenda. Do I have a motion?
You have a motion?
And a second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
Aye.
None. Great. Spotlight is 3. Spotlight, Sonia Whip, our principal. It looks like 3.1 science fair.
Do we have our science fair folks in the audience, or should I start with the other?
We are bringing them in right now.
Okay.
And I apologize. I was waiting. I was in the waiting room for several minutes.
Sorry about that.
Is that KAITLYN Marion?
Yeah, hi.
Hi, KAITLYN. How are you?
Good, thank you. How are you?
Good. I heard you're doing a great science fair this year.
She did a terrific job, and Marissa Brazil, our 8th grade science teacher, put together a slideshow of some of the highlights. And is she here also?
She's running that screen.
Okay, so
Hi.
hi, would you like to, we are so proud of how well your kids did. We had, the majority of our 8th graders did follow through with a science fair project, and the Rhode Island State Science and Engineering Fair went to a virtual platform. And instead of boring you with listening to me, I'll let you listen to Marissa and then KAITLYN a little bit.
Thank you, Sonia. And I'm not going to bore you with me too long either, because I want you to hear from KAITLYN, because that's more important. So the Science and Engineering Fair, as Sonia mentioned, did occur this year. It was very, very different from years past. So it was an entirely virtual experience. So because of COVID, we actually gave the kids the option of doing a state level project this year, or doing one that was a little bit pared back, because some of them just had, life situations that would have prohibited them from completing the full project. So we had 15 students that chose to do the state competition. We had 6 months of super hard work and preparation. At the the junior division is the middle school students, which is 6th, 7th, and 8th graders from across the state. There were 95 students in that division. We had 7 hours of judging interviews on Saturday the 13th. We had the kids all come to school, and they were assigned to a classroom, so that way they could conduct their judging interviews virtually, but with the appropriate support from myself, and Mr. Gabriel was on site, and Mrs. Miller and Mrs. Connolly were there as well, just to help out with managing the kids and making sure they were all set so they weren't doing it on their own at home. We had 2 of our students, Alana Mendonça and Emmett Greenwood, who were selected for special awards judging. So they had additional judging interviews in the afternoon that day. So I'm going to really, really quickly just explain what the different awards are and who won what award. And then I'll save the best for last, absolutely. So just so you know how the awards are structured, they have a bunch of different tiers. They pick the top 2 projects for a best and fair designation. The top 8 are best and fair finalist designation. And then there's a first grant, second grant, and third grant. So everybody gets a different award tier. So everybody did receive something. So we had a very small outdoor ceremony where I gave them all of their awards in bags. It was not quite the same as the ceremony at CCRI, but we tried. So they got their medals and ribbons and whatnot. So that's just one picture, because I caught Mr. Tomaso off guard and told him to take pictures. So sorry. So we had 6 students receive 3rd grant designation. Kane Lewis studied the effect of eye color on night and peripheral vision. Alana Mendonça studied the effect of liquids and air on the porosity of face masks. Damon Owen studied the effect of different baseball bat materials on the distance a ball travels. Mia Randazzo studied the effect of different waxes on a surfboard. Christian Vachon studied the effect of MLB parks on a baseball player's batting average. And Georgia Hecking, who was with us at the time, unfortunately, she has moved, but she participated, so we're recognizing her just the same. But she studied the effect of gravity on time. We had 7 students with 2nd grant designation. Emily Babola studied the effect of different water sources on hair growth. Lily Coward studied the effect of caffeine concentration on plant growth. Avery Duvall studied the effect of different colors on a horse's preference. Marion Goodfriend studied the effect of life straws and iodine tablets on water purification. Emmett Greenwood studied the effect of video games on REM sleep. Grace Littlefield studied the effect of clicker buttons on the intelligence of dogs. And Kate Procopio studied the effect of cognitive tests on the intelligence of cats and dogs. So we had 1 student that received a 1st grant, and that was Jack Loper. And he studied the effect of biological sex on a cat's paw preference. So whether the cat was male or female, it affected what paw they used to get the treat. And the reason why I invited KAITLYN tonight is because she is our superstar. I'm super proud of all of my students, but KAITLYN was selected as a Best and Fair finalist this year. So she can tell you a little bit more about her project and all of that, but I am going to turn it over to Miss KAITLYN.
Hi. So I'm gonna tell you guys a little bit about what my project was and what it was on. So my project was on the effects of fertilizers on plants grown through a maze. In my project, my intentions were to determine how plants could be shaped using obstacles. In this experiment, I used a maze. However, throughout my experiment, I discovered that it could not be accomplished very thoroughly unless an addition to nutrients were used. These nutrients were fertilizers. I used 3 different fertilizers in this experiment and grew 1 naturally. One fertilizer was phosphorus, another was potassium, and another one was nitrogen. As a result, I'm sorry. Okay. As a result, the potassium fertilizer works the best because it thickened the stems and leaves, allowing faster growth, and it provided drought resistance and disease resistance, strengthening the plant's immune system. So while all of the fertilizers had great impacts on how the plants could grow through, the phosphorus had the most amount of intentions that were provided. Sorry. Does anyone have any questions?
KAITLYN, how long did it take you to grow these plants?
I grew them over a period of 21 days, and I recorded the differences in growth every 3 days. And I also added the fertilizers every week, but I watered the plants daily.
Very good.
KAITLYN, where's that sunny spot?
That was in like the front of my house because that was the sunniest spot that like the plants could reach. So that way there was an evenly distributed amount of nutrients to each of the plants.
Was it south facing?
I think it was, yes. Okay. Yes. Sorry.
What kind of plants did you use?
I used bean sprout seeds.
KAITLYN, this is great work. And I'd like to ask you, what will you do with what you learned about the effects of potassium on your plants?
So I think that this could have a lot of impacts on not only the plant world, but also the scientific world. So as I was doing my research, I learned that the bean sprout seeds were a very fast growing plant. So since they were such fast growing, like it allows scientists to try more like experiments using the plants, such as my experiment, which of course used a maze, and the intentions were to figure out how they could use a maze to grow the plant through it, and using oh my gosh, I'm sorry, I can hear the echoing from the kitchen. I'm sorry.
We can't.
Could be the little brother and little sister.
No, sorry. My dad's on the meet right now, so he's just listening too. Okay. So I'm sorry, what was the question?
I think you answered it very nicely. Thank you, Caitlin.
Thank you.
You did such a great job. So very proud of you, Caitlin.
Thank you.
Great job, Caitlin.
And one thing she didn't mention, just so I can brag just a tiny bit more. So Caitlin qualified for Broadcom Masters, which is the national competition for the middle school division. It's an online submission format, so she will enter her projects online, and then they'll do a series of, they'll sift through the projects nationally. And then I think the top 10 or something like that in October have the chance to go to Washington, DC. So, but we're going to start working on her application after April vacation. It's not due till June. And then she'll probably find out in September if she advanced any farther in the national competition. So, and she placed top 8 out of 95 projects. So,
Way to go.
Great job. Good luck.
luck, Caitlin.
Thank you.
We're rooting for you.
Thank you so much.
Bye-bye. Take care.
Bye.
Bye as well.
Sonia, 3.2, update on after-school activities, sports and theater.
I just wanted to spotlight the fact that we are bringing back some of our former normal back to school. So there have been some after-school events that we've started running. We have started running a 5-week middle school sports. We are running soccer and a cross-country track hybrid. We split it up so that 7th and 8th graders have soccer 2 days a week. 5th and 6th grade have it the other 2 days a week. And the cross-country and track is also split up the same way. So students have the possibility of doing 2 sports. So they could be after school 4 days a week. We have 44 students participating. And there are 5 students of those 44 who are participating in 2 different sports. So I'm very happy that they're doing that. It's nice to see the fields and the land being used again with happy, smiling kids. We are requiring that they wear masks. We are requiring that they social distance when not actively engaged in their play. And we are requiring that they test on a weekly basis. So they are asked to participate in right now it's Wednesdays, and we're going to be moving to Mondays for testing. So they are all complying and going for their weekly testing. We are also having a theater program that will, we are going to do, I had a student come to me and ask if that we could consider doing a musical, and she had a small cast musical in mind. We did some fact finding and found that it would be hard to cast it and get enough kids that at this time of year in the spring, when people are actively involved in sports outside of school, that would have been very difficult. So what Miss Oriole came up with is we're going to do a spring blitz, and it's going to be a series of 4 approximately 15-minute short plays with small casts. We're encouraging students to write their own plays, and that will be performed on June 12th with a rain date of June 12th. So it will all be outside. Rehearsals, the production will all be outside. It is being geared to the older kids at this point in time. So we're looking at 6th, 7th, and 8th graders. So they would be coming after school to rehearse, and they would be working in groups of, perhaps a cast of up to 5 or 6 kids in a given short play. We are also looking at having a field day that would be on June 16th with a rain date of June 17th. They will travel in their stable pods, so it won't look exactly like field days have in the past, but we're going to figure out how to put something together where they can go back to our days of doing activities like field day. And finally, this week, we did have a book fair that was a collaboration with LCEF and PST. The first 2 days, we moved the carts of books outside, but it is very windy and difficult in the back of the building. So we moved inside today. We set up in the cafeteria and we kept our group size small to keep it as safe as possible. But we've had, tomorrow will be the 4th and final day. We will have gotten all students through the book fair. So very happy that we have some normalcy back at Wilbur.
Thank you. Yeah, it looks great. Thank you, Sonia.
Just Patrick, excuse me, what was the rain date on that field day, please?
It's Wednesday, the 16th with a rain date of Thursday, the 17th.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sonia. Superintendent report. 4.1 Wilbraham School Hybrid Learning Model.
We're in our 13th week of asymptomatic testing, and this sort of screening does support our in-person learning. We did, our testing did indicate that we had 2 individuals who were positive. They were asymptomatic, but positive. And so we went from 0 members of our school community in isolation to 2. And we went from 0 members of our school community in quarantine to 8. So our thoughts and well wishes are with those 10 members of our school community. And this asymptomatic screening, like I said, is pivotal if we want to remain open and keep as many people as possible safe from the virus. The most recent data from the state shows that the town went from under 5 in 1 week to a spike of 7 cases. So the surge is definitely alive and well in our own community, and that's usually the most certain predictor of in-school positive cases. So if the community experiences an uptick, so will the school. And we have seen that since October or so, since we started keeping the data. So if we all keep on making good choices, hard choices, you know, our in-person learning can move forward until the end of the school year. And so fingers crossed that that is the case. The governor wants 100% of all students back in person throughout the state. And we're good. We're, you know, we are at 96% in person, up from 84% in September. So we're doing really well. And RIDE has said that any of our families who are in person, who are at home doing distance learning and want to come on site for activities and so forth, they can remain in that mode, and we are supporting those decisions. So any family who's doing distance learning right now, we will continue to support those families. The goal for the state is 100% across the board in September for the 2022 school year. But we should be very proud that we are at 96%, and there are families who make choices, and we honor those choices. And we continue to support them in that modality. Our tents are back up. They came on Monday and they were erected. There, I believe, 20 by 20. And then we have 2 16 by 16s. And I think we put those together for, yeah, for multi-purposes and so forth. And so, our teachers and students are loving outdoor learning with or without tents, but the tents take the edge off misty and windy days, that's for sure. The state has dialed back some of, well, actually the feds too, the CDC and RIDO, some of the mitigation pieces to in-person learning. Elementary school kids can be 3 feet apart. We are keeping it at 6. We are not tweaking any of our mitigation efforts. Our school buses can go to 75% capacity from 50. We're keeping with the 50% capacity cap because we have had a really good year, except for this week, you know, our 13th week of testing, we're at 1% positivity. We had about 200 people participate or so today. We are past 2,000 rapid tests the past 13 weeks. And So we're at 1% positivity for the first time since our testing started. We hope to hold that line and keep all of our current mitigation practices in place. And that's all I have for now. We're doing really well. We could always improve. Our thoughts and well wishes are with our 10 members who are now in quarantine. And if everyone just keeps on doing what they're doing and making those hard decisions outside of school, and that goes for me, all of us, we should be all systems go till the end of the school year.
Thank you.
Can I ask a question, please?
Sure, go ahead.
Regarding the testing, do you have enough support? How's that working? Is there enough community?
I think we're good. We have a nurse, a student teacher, and we have a parent who has offered to volunteer if we need her services. We have a sub from in town who helps us out a lot, Mr. Manny Medeiros. Most of us know him. And I can't say enough about Chief Petron and the Little Compton Fire Department. They have been absolutely integral to this particular initiative that helps keep us open, helps keep us safe and healthy. So I think we're good for now, but I'll pick up that phone, Rita Kenahan.
No, I'm so impressed that you continue to do this asymptomatic testing for the entire school community, that most school districts cannot do that, and
No.
they're not doing it. They do it the required, sports teams,
Right.
but not the way you're doing it. And I think it is absolutely helping to keep our community safe. So thank you so much for all that good work. I
agree. And I can't be the only one who holds her or their breath every Wednesday when I get that test. My trips to Target, let's face it. So it is a lot of work. And I have to say, Nurse Dunn has been absolutely at the top of that pyramid. Excellent work on her part and her organizing and mobilizing. The minute there is a positive case, and today there were 2, she becomes the point of care nurse. She gets into full PPE. She gets pulled offline. Her student teacher was amazing today as well. So she deserves props, that's for sure. This is a community effort. The town and the school collaborating to keep our kids and staff safe, just like the clinics that they had for staff a few weeks ago at Tiverton High School, the Little Compton pod and the Tiverton pod. So we can't do this alone, that's for sure. We need our school committee, we need our staff, we need our families, and our safety complex has absolutely knocked it out of the park. And to watch them with the little kids is a sight to behold. They're so kind and caring and gentle. Our kids think it's a treat to have their nostrils. This is our new normal. And I have to say, I'm so proud of the community. And thank you for asking, Rita. We're so far so good. But on days like this, when we have 2 cases and our medical team is offline a bit, we can never predict, so far so good. If not, we'll be sending out a call for some volunteers.
Thank you.
Patrick, can I just have a quick follow-up?
Sure, go ahead. Yep.
In regards to the testing, the 200, is that the normal that you're testing every week? And what is the 200?
That's a guess. Yeah, I didn't get that number today, but the numbers have been between about 176 last week. And Principal, we don't have the numbers yet from today, but she said it was the highest number yet.
In out of the majority of the possibility of how many between everybody?
20, well, 100 more would be nice. About 270 or so.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. 4.2, human resources update.
Thank you, Chair. Very quick one tonight. To support the spring sports program that Principal Whip discussed, the following appointments have been approved. Jason Ford is the middle school soccer coach. Jennifer Shapiro is the middle school track coach. And in addition, Michael Tomaso will be the yearbook advisor this year. We are looking for day-to-day on-call custodial substitutes. Interested individuals can contact the main office and they can be directed from there. Anyone who would like to substitute in the teacher or teacher assistant capacity can also call the school. Both of those postings are also on School Spring, so anyone can apply that way as well. And the staff is enjoying the spring walking challenge that the trust is sponsoring. It's a team competition, see who can get the most steps in. The admin team's not doing so well. Not there yet. That's it.
Well, thank you for that update. I hope it gets better. 5, finance report, Mr. McNamee.
Thank you, Patrick. We have the financial statements for the 9 months ended March 31. And we're showing a small deficit of 11,500 at this point in time. Over the next couple of months, we'll refine that number a little bit. We do have a number of expenses coming in that'll be COVID related. On a positive note, we have 2 tranches of money that are going to be coming in from the ESSER funding from the latest round and the round that was provided, I believe, back in December. And we're looking to get about 64,000 from the ESSER 2 funds, and I believe it's going to be close to 114,000 from the ESSER 3 funds. So those monies right now will have an application process through RIDE. And so at this point, we're not sure exactly what we can spend that money on. A portion of it, I know on the ESSER 2 funds, the 64,000, 25% of that has to be spent on summer learning loss programs. So programs that would have to be put in place during the summer months. And so the superintendent is looking at some opportunities to utilize those funds. It doesn't look at this point in time that we'll be able to utilize these funds to offset any particular budgetary items that we have right now. Although things like the additional tents, I'm sure that we could probably be able to utilize those funds to cover those expenses. So I'm hoping that we can have a little bit of offset on those funds. So it's quite a bit of money for some districts, not as much as we anticipate Little Compton, but some districts are getting substantial amounts of money. We're talking well into the millions of dollars on these 2 particular COVID funds. So I'm hoping that we can shave down the deficit to come in at break even by the time we get to June.
Thank you, John. Any questions for John?
John, the second, it was 64,000 was the first amount, and what was the second amount, please?
114, I believe. Yep.
And it's not determined on what we can actually use those funds for at this time, correct?
No, there's going to be an application process that RIDE comes up with that we'll have to submit our budgets for. And they don't want you to kind of supplant some of what you have in your existing budget, but we do have some expenditures, for example, the tents that would kind of fall out of the realm of what we would have had budgeted for last year. So, and there's probably some other sanitizing expenses in there, custodial expenditures that we can probably put into that number. So I'm hoping that we can squeeze out some dollars that'll put us into the black for the current year.
So just to understand this better, we have to put in an application to approve our expenditures up to this $178,000. Is that right? Do I understand that correctly?
Correct. So the money comes basically from the feds to the Department of Education, and they wind up allocating it based on a Title I formula. So based on a number of criteria that they allocate the Title I funds on, they use the same allocation for the ESSER funding. So, I was on a webinar the other day, and there are some areas in there that are going to be a little bit more general in nature that might allow us to utilize these funds for some items that we may have in our FY22 budget. But I've got to take a look at that. RIDE has promised to have that application out within the next couple of weeks, so we'll have a little bit better idea of what they might be looking at in the application process over the next couple of weeks. One of the areas could be technology. We could probably spend some on technology to mitigate some learning loss. I think one of the items is purchasing internet access for those that do not have that availability, and assisting some of those students that need assistance in that area. So certainly it's unexpected money, and we're hoping that we can utilize that over the next couple of years.
So when does this money have to be used by, the 170?
I think the first one is probably into 2023, and the second tranche, the 114, is probably into 2024, December of 2024. So we've got some time to utilize the funds.
Has there been any indication as far as being able to recoup any extra labor that we've had to spend using of these funds that we've incurred due to COVID?
I'm not sure at what Mike, at what point the cutoff time would be. So if it's when the act was passed and it's expenditures after that, or is it expenditures after, let's say, July 1 of 2020? It's unclear as to the time frame, but you can use it. You can use it to hire teachers to help with learning loss. You can hire more administrative and custodial for assistance in sanitizing the buildings and in complying with any kind of distance learning or social distancing as well within the schools. So there is a little bit more flexibility, it looks like, with the labor side. The prior ones, the ESSER ones and the CRF funds that we had gotten prior to that, it was very difficult to get any type of salaries into those. But again, that would be new hires. That wouldn't be existing personnel that we do have.
I guess my last question for you would be, I understand you're saying an application process will be 1 to 2 weeks. You'll be expecting that. What is the turnaround time that you would expect to see funds returned to us after the application is approved?
Well, if it goes in line with what's happened in the past, generally there's probably a 30-day window there where RIDE reviews the applications, comes back with questions, and once it's approved, then you can start spending. So I'm thinking that once the application is out there and we finally submit our budget, I would say probably within 30 days of the submission of that budget, we should have access to those funds.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mike. Thanks, John. Committee reports. The policy subcommittee met today. Would you guys like to wait till we get down to action items to discuss those?
Yes, please.
Okay. Portsmouth School Committee report. Rita did not go to the last one. I did. I can speak on that in discussion on 7.1, unless you want to say something, Rita.
I do not wish to. Thank you.
You're welcome. Town Recreation Committee liaison report, something to report. 6.4 Wellness Committee liaison report. Rita?
Yes, we had, I think I reported on our first meeting. We have a second meeting coming up in May. We have a wonderful team that's pulled together and working nicely with the Chartwell's group, the food services, and Rhode Island Healthy Schools. In fact, we just got a new newsletter from the Rhode Island Healthy Schools, and I sent that out to the team so we could look at it. But nope, things are going well.
Great. Thank
I
you.
have a question, Patrick.
Sure, go ahead.
When's the next wellness meeting, Rita?
Have to check on that. But it is in May, so I can send the date out to you.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah, or I'll look it up and I'll make sure we record it on this meeting too.
Thank you.
Yes,
May 11th.
May 11th. Thank you, Mariah. May 11th at 3:30, and it goes about an hour.
All right, thank you. 7.1 discussion item. 7.1 high school negotiations update. I attended the Portsmouth School Committee meeting via Zoom, and I had an opportunity to speak with Emily Copeland today, the chair of the Portsmouth School Committee, just to clarify what was voted on last night, and to ask her about what they rejected from us when we voted March 10th on our motion. So I got some clarification, and they agreed with the $13,500. They did not reject that. They did reject our minimum of students. So they're asking for a guarantee of 100 minimum students in 2021, 2022, and 22, 23. And the last thing that they rejected was the extension language. They didn't reject an extension. What they did was the language. So we need to work on the language of the 11th year, the COVID year, the emergency year, whatever you want to call it, and what we're going to do with those students in that freshman class moving forward. So there's some more work to be done. And we're going to, I recommend we bring it back to the subcommittee to work on these things and update the school committee on our next meeting in our progression with negotiating with Portsmouth. Is there any questions I can answer for that?
Patrick.
Yes.
So last night at the meeting, they had a document on the screen that I'm not sure I have seen. Maybe I saw it in a different color. I'm not sure, but I was quite shocked when I saw a document that was then presented with quite a bit of red and our rejections to their contract. So I'm slightly confused. I don't mean to be confused, but
Maybe I can help you out.
okay.
So what happened was on March 13th, our school committee voted 5-0 for three things, unanimously 5-0, up to $13,500 for tuition. No minimum and no extension contract. No, in other words, we're extending our previous contract. And they met 2 weeks later in March, and they voted 4-3 to have the lawyers negotiate. I didn't have the lawyer. We didn't vote to have the lawyers negotiate. They did. So their lawyer contacted our lawyer with a document, and our lawyer redlined that document to exactly what we voted for on March 13th. Up to $13,500, no minimum, no new contract, just an extension of the old contract. What they sent to our lawyer was a bunch of other stuff. So what he did, and all we could do, is give back to them what we voted on, because we didn't have another meeting about anything else. So that's all that document was. I was surprised to see that it was on their screen for 10 seconds. I don't know why. The two lawyer documents, but I had a great conversation with Emily Copeland today and clarified, what the steps are forward. Does that clear it up for you?
So, yeah, I also sort of felt that we had a small team and they had a small team that were kind of going back and forth and feeling out what each committee would agree to. And I thought that both committees had agreed to what we put forward beforehand. So I don't know. I was just very surprised.
That was a misconception or a miscommunication. So to go back, we had our superintendent and our business manager meet with their superintendent and business manager for 4 months, starting back in November.
Yeah.
And reporting back to our subcommittee. So finally, our subcommittee reported back to our school committee. We voted 5-0 for up to 13,500. No minimum on kids and no new contract.
Okay.
And that's what we sent to them. So yesterday they voted to reject that. But what I call to clarify is, what did you reject? They didn't reject the 13,500. They agreed to that. They rejected the minimum. They would like to have 100 students guaranteed.
Yeah.
And they didn't really reject the extension. There's some language that we need to figure out on that, what to do with the kids after they get there on that
All right.
COVID year. And so we have some more work to do. So we'll pop it back to the subcommittee, and then we'll report back to the school committee on our findings.
It's just hard to follow because I didn't hear all those rejections in their meeting, and I wasn't quite clear on what they were rejecting. It appeared that they were rejecting
Yeah,
everything.
that's why I
So-
called to clarify with
Right.
the chair today. So I was happy to report that. Yeah. So yeah, like I guess in anything in life, there's a lot of miscommunications, and so we're going to try our best here. That's what we've been doing for the past 4 months, is doing our best here to figure this out. Any other questions?
So I have another question, or
ahead.
maybe even a comment. I am not on the high school subcommittee negotiating, whatever it's called. But I would be interested in sending out an RFP. I think that this has and I love Portsmouth, and Portsmouth can respond to the RFP. I just think that so much time has gone by that we're kind of putting ourselves and our kids in a little bit of a predicament, and should start getting responses from all sorts of schools.
Did you do that on purpose for me to say my history? I think you did, didn't you?
I did not. I have heard your history.
Well, you're
We've
gonna hear
all
it.
heard
You're
your
gonna hear it
history.
again. You're gonna hear it again.
Okay.
So 10 years ago, what Little Compton does is they send out an RFP every 10 years. The reason why we haven't sent out an RFP is because we're in a emergency COVID situation that allows us to negotiate with our current the high school that has our kids. There's procurement laws that you can't negotiate a multi-year deal or deals with the high school you're with in Rhode Island. But since we're in this emergency thing, we had that window, we had that opportunity, and we had some great conversations, and we learned a lot. And we learned that it's going to be expensive. It's going to be more than it was 10 years ago. So, in 2011,
yeah.
when they went out to bid, and they got 3 bids, Tiverton, Middletown, and Portsmouth, and they filled the gym, and they had their presentations, and they visited the schools. They had a vote and made a decision. And 10 years back from that, in 2001, they did the same thing. They sent out an RFP, they visited the schools, they filled the gym, and they had a vote. And both those votes were Portsmouth in 2001 and 2011. So here we are now, 20 years later. We would be doing the same thing, except we're in an emergency COVID, where we are today. So we had a chance to negotiate them, and that's what we're doing. So we're going to continue to do that.
Patrick,
Yes, go ahead.
Go ahead, Hannah.
Thank you, Mike. I just wanted to ask if you got the feeling from the Portsmouth chair that they're willing to negotiate, that they want our students back, or anything like that.
I would say I got a very good feeling from Emily on yes on both those questions.
Okay, that's good to know.
Mike?
Yeah, so is their chair under the impression that we have more than 100 students going to be attending for next year? Does she actually know what we actually have that we're going to be sending?
I don't know what she thinks on that issue.
And the second question is that you have the sticking points that you can bring back to the subcommittee that we can go over from that discussion.
Yes.
Okay.
Anyone else? Anyone else? You can just put your hand up or scream. All right, great. Thank you. Discussion item 7.2, school calendar. Is that the superintendent?
Yes, the school committee policy, let's see. Code 2016 states that I am supposed to present this calendar to you in the first week in March, but the state, thank you, Mariah, the state sent out several iterations of it before they stuck the landing. So here we are. Generally, we definitely try to sync up with Portsmouth as much as we can because we share students, we share families with siblings and so forth. And it just worked out really well this year. The state has, once again, created a unified calendar. This is particular to these COVID years. Last spring, they created a unified calendar. They also created one for this current school year, 2020-2021. And they also created one for 2021-2022 school year. And they left us a little bit of leeway, and here we are. Yeah, I think we have a really good calendar for next year. We have staff orientation at the end of August. And then we start off with some PD days, and that's really important. It will be the final year of our International Baccalaureate candidacy phase. And our students, bring that up a bit, our students start after Labor Day on September 7th. So that's good. And you know, some of our high school, our school kids heading to high school. You know, all the families and all the siblings will be in sync. And I know kids like to start the school year later, and teachers and admin like to start a few days before. So it definitely is fair to everybody. So our kids start late, teachers start a little bit early, and hopefully we'll end early, June 16th. And that is with no snow days, or with, you know, a few snow days that are DL days, etc. Any questions?
I do. I have a question.
Go for it.
The snow days, what are we going to do? We're going to make the kids go on the computer? What are we going to do?
Well, I saw that discussion last night too, Patrick, and it is pretty much happening everywhere. We no longer need snow days, obviously, because we have an especially good model here in Little Compton. We can pivot on a dime and push out our instructional program. So I think we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. Generally, we sync up with Portsmouth. I think I had to deviate from them once last year, if you remember. We had a freak storm sort of in our little corner of the world, and they didn't. And I know they pushed out a survey. I think one of their options was, and I exercised that this year, if you remember, was to truncate the school day so that it still counts towards the 180, and do the best, you know, give the kids and the families the best of both worlds. Academics in the morning, snow day in the afternoon. So I hope we have a lot of snow.
I'm trying to recall what they said, what the percentage was to have a snow day. Was it 57%? Do you remember?
It's like 47% or so, but to cap the number, you know, just have one or two.
One or
and
two.
The rest, yeah.
So they're trying to please both ways. have a couple of snow days and then the rest are remote. Are you
Right.
planning on putting a survey out to our parents?
I guess we could, sure. I don't think there's a heavy debate in Little Compton. And there definitely is a debate in the larger school districts, that's for sure. But my impulse as an educator and a mother is to do the best of both worlds. Give the kids academics in the morning, and I think they really like that this year. If there's a lot of snow and distance learning is impeded because of connectivity and so forth, snow day it is.
Yeah.
I think they're going to play it by ear, sort of, and will generally be in sync with them.
All right. Thank you. Any other questions?
I have a question on
Sure,
that.
go ahead.
So as far as the state putting this calendar out, have you got any feedback, or as far as, are they going to continue to do this, or is this going to be left back to the individual districts going forward after this upcoming year?
It's a good question, Mike. I think once all of our students and teens, our young kids and our young adults are vaccinated, the state will likely back off on being so prescriptive. And then I'm hearing the flip of that we may have a unified calendar with more flexibility moving forward. There are pluses and minuses, obviously. There's flexibility in terms of school communities and religious holidays. So we did get some flexibility this year. But yeah, they're pretty much being prescriptive. Some districts did away with February break and this doesn't. So I know families in those districts are happy that the February vacation is back. So I don't know. It's kind of like the ESSER funds, ESSER 2 and 3 coming in. We don't know. Generally, RIDE is not tipping their hand very much in terms of a post-COVID world or hard and fast ways to spend some of the money. It is impacting everything. This pandemic year is impacting every sector of society, and schools are particularly being affected. So I'm hearing both, that they're going to back off and also that there will be some uniformity that stays in place.
All right.
I have
Thank
a
you.
question.
Yes, go ahead.
Just back to the snow day topic, was there any guidance from the state about using distance learning for snow days? Because you had mentioned earlier that Governor McKee would like 100% of students back in person. So are they completely against distance learning at all, or what was the guidance from the state level?
Well, that's a good question, Hannah. He wanted 100% of the students back after April break.
Oh,
And
okay.
those and superintendents pushed back on that. We have families who need to do distance learning until the end of the year for very specific, discrete reasons, and we're not going to disrupt that. And yes, he does want full in person. There will be no distance learning options as it stands right now in September. And I think I'm not sure that can also, I'm not sure we can do that to some of our families in September. I'm sure there will be some exceptions to that, and we're all waiting to hear more. Some kids really thrived during distance learning. We know kids, most kids, not all, but most, the vast majority of kids, they're best served on campus. But this year has taught us that there are some instances where the learning modality that we've offered to some families is is optimal for these kids and families. So yes, the governor is pushing for full in person, but there hasn't been much guidance around snow days, leaving it up to the districts. And we have some years we have brown winters and some we have some nice snowy winters. So I think most of us are doing sort of a wait and see, but it's good to know that we can have some flexibility. We can do full snow days. We can do a combination morning, truncated, sort of compressed day, and snow fun in the afternoon. My family seem to like that. So I'm hoping for a lot of snow, but not a lot of snow days. That's what I'm hoping for.
Thank
But
you.
Thank you. Okay, 8.1 public input. Anyone has anything to say? You have 3 minutes now to say something. And also, as you know, in these meetings, as we get on to action items, you can raise your hand and talk there and there. So this isn't your only bite at the apple. So you can, I see a hand, Ed Bowen. Should we get Ed on? Ed?
Hi, Mr. Chairman. I have some questions about item 9.1 on the agenda, and I'd be happy to wait for 9.1 or however you wish to handle it.
Sounds good, Ed. Sounds good. We'll wait till 9.1. We'll be there in a couple of seconds. Anyway.
Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else like to do public input on anything on the agenda? And I don't see anybody. Okay, so we'll go to 9.1. Consider, discuss, and vote to amend the school committee bylaw second read. I will go to our policy committee. Polly?
Hi, yep. So this is the second read. We had gone through all the changes that we originally made last month. Just adopting some new language, cleaning it up a bit. But Mike did catch that in our concern for straightening out the secretary position, because we have our confidential secretary, Mariah, but in keeping with the duties of the members, it was really referring to Rita's position as the school committee chair. So while we were hashing that out, we also left out the part that the secretary could be removed from the position. So we stuck that back in, not that we expect Rita to go wild or anything, but just in case, we have that in there. And that was the only change from the first read to the second read.
Okay. Is there any questions from the committee on this action item 9.1?
I have one. that
Sure, go ahead.
I came up with today under the emergency / special meetings, and I'm just trying to get to that section.
Section 2 on the second page, maybe.
Is that where?
It is a very long policy.
Sorry, just bear with me for a second. Trying to find it.
Does Carolyn have her hand up? Carolyn Sedgwick?
No, sorry, that's that again.
Yeah, Ed, I got you. As soon as we talk to the committee, we'll put you on, Ed.
So the only thing that I saw on this was under the special meetings, it refers to that the superintendent should poll the members to determine if there's a legal quorum available to meet at the proposed time and date, which basically means that, from my understanding, is that the superintendent's going to reach out to all the members of the committee. Under the emergency meetings section, where it says that can be called by the chair of the superintendent or upon 3 members, it doesn't reference anything about the superintendent reaching out to everybody. Just being that it's an emergency situation or emergency meetings for an emergency meeting, that's the only thing that I noticed, was that there's nothing in there saying that each member will be reached out to. And I guess that would be my only concern, so that nothing was to get done unless everybody was reached out in that particular situation.
So I'm on section 2, special meetings, emergency meetings. Is there another reference to this? Is that what you're saying?
No, so in the first paragraph, it refers to that the superintendent shall poll the members under the first paragraph, section 2. The superintendent shall poll the members to determine if there's a legal quorum. It's about the fifth sentence in.
Yep.
But then you go to the next paragraph down where it refers to the emergency meetings may be called by the chair. It says who it can be called by, but it just does not specify in an emergency meeting situation that everybody will be notified or everybody will be polled to make sure that everybody can be available for that meeting, for an emergency meeting.
So it's all the same section. So the above statement, the superintendent shall poll the members, is all part of that emergency meeting paragraph.
Right, it just specifies that it's
Oh, okay, you feel like it's the first one is all about special meetings and not emergency meetings.
that's correct.
Okay, so we can add that
Right.
that language right there. Yes.
It does say that 3 members have to request
Right.
a meeting, and that would be a quorum of our school committee, which would enable us to hold a meeting. So is that needed? Like if we would hold an emergency meeting if 3 of us have requested it.
So I think Mike's concern, and correct me if I'm wrong, and I don't think he's like looking for, you know, a needle in a haystack, but that it, by these words, possibly 3 members could hold an emergency meeting and not notify the other 2. Is that what you're concerned about? And
I just want to make sure that everybody is notified. Whether everybody can attend or not, that's another story. But as long as everybody is notified of an emergency meeting, that would be my concern.
Yeah, we didn't change the language at the top at all. I think we added information there, content there, but we might not have gone far enough.
I mean,
right, and I mean, concerning like open meetings acts and how we notify everyone, of course, everyone would be notified, but I'm not opposed to having it in writing to just confirm it. And
Could John Anderson be helpful at this?
Sure, I think that it would be helpful first if I explain the difference between a special meeting and an emergency meeting. The special meeting is, you might decide that 2 weeks from today, you'd like to have a special meeting to discuss your relationship with the Portsmouth School Department. And that is something that if 3 members of the school committee wish to have it, the 3 members of the school committee will provide a written request to the superintendent. The superintendent will be required under the Open Meetings Act to provide 2 business days notice. It will be posted on the Secretary of State's website. It will be posted on the school department's website. It will be posted in 2 public buildings in the town of Little Compton. An emergency meeting, by contrast, is exactly that. It is an emergency. I will tell you that in the 30 years that I have been representing schools, I have had 1 emergency meeting in 30 years. The 1 emergency meeting I had in 30 years was I had 1 school that felt that they needed to ask the school committee whether they could close the schools because of COVID. And by the time they had their emergency meeting the next day, the governor had made the decision for them. So that's what an emergency meeting is. In terms of an emergency, so as far as the special meeting, everyone's going to get notice. The whole community is going to get notice. It's going to be on, posted on bulletin boards and so forth. As far as the emergency meeting goes, in a situation, an emergency meeting is a true emergency. You may not be able to find all the members of the school committee. It may be that a hurricane has hit and it has blown the roof off the school and the school is about to collapse and you need to take an emergency action to hire a contractor. Again, I've had that happen once in 30 years, and I explained the circumstances with regard to COVID. On the first one, you're going to get notice. You get notice the same way that you get notice now. And frankly, this school committee probably has had special meetings left and right during the last year. With regard to the emergency meeting, if you wish to add language that says that everybody will, that the school superintendent will make best efforts to, there will be efforts made to give notice, that's fine. But, we're talking about, for example, there's a hurricane and maybe 2 members of the school committee are dead. And it's hard to give them notice under those circumstances. That's the type of thing that we're talking about with regard to an emergency meeting. Again, I've had it once in 30 years.
And John, that's a great record, and that's a good thing that you've only had that once. I'm just asking that it just be an effort be put out to everybody, whether we can get in contact with them or not. At least there's an effort put out, and it just doesn't state that. That's all. That's the only thing I'm asking for. It doesn't hurt, or either way, I don't believe, unless you see something different.
No, that's fine. It can be bad. It just has to be an effort. It can't be, you know, in an emergency, I can't guarantee that, you know, we can find somebody who's, you know, washed into the ocean or something like that, God forbid.
And I understand that. I just wanted to give everybody the opportunity that
Sure.
we at least maybe.
Sure. May I suggest that you add a sentence to the emergency meeting that says the superintendent will make an effort or to notify all members of the school committee.
That's
Sure.
fine. Something simple. We could do that.
Do I need an amendment for that tonight?
You do.
Oh, boy.
Or we can put this back on the policy meeting for next
Flush that out.
for next month, stick it in there and come back for the third read, or essentially the second read.
I'm gonna go with Ed Bowen next. Ed, go ahead.
Okay.
I'm not sure if my mic is on, is it? Oh, it is.
We're on,
Yes.
we're on.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I have a question about Article 3, Section 3, and the paragraph that's being struck relating to the secretary. And I'm curious what the rationale is for removing that paragraph. I recall that 2 years ago, when the secretary position changed and it became a standalone position, John Anderson certainly imparted to us the necessity of having a non-union administrative secretary because of the likelihood that conflicts of interest would arise. And I'm just curious why it would be that would be deleted. Is it the intention of the school committee to change that position to a union position?
No, it's not. This is the school committee bylaws. And so those were duties of school committee members. And that paragraph was not referring to a school committee member.
Got you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ed. Do you guys want to do the amendment today?
I mean, why don't we just do it next time for the sake of the committee tonight, that they don't have to hear us bumble over the wording.
I will table this. So I need a vote to table. John Anderson.
Yes.
Can I get a motion to table 9.2?
So moved.
Second,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. 9.3, consider, discuss, and vote to amend the transgender policy. First read, Polly.
Oh, you sent me, no, you missed one. You sent me for a
missed
loop and missed one. Yeah,
Oh, sorry. 9.2, I'm sorry, 9.2, consider, discuss, and vote to adopt the equity and excellence in education policy. Second read. Go ahead, Polly.
This is
I have a line through my next one, so I might skip the next one.
oh, okay. We'll
Sorry.
bring you back. This, so no changes have been made since the first read. This was a policy brought to the policy committee by our superintendent after attending some superintendent meetings, that she realized it was an important policy to include in our catalog. So we did a first read at our regular meeting last month, and this is just the second read with no changes.
Any questions on this one? Do I have a motion?
Moved.
Second,
Second,
via roll call, please.
Polly Allen,
aye.
Anna Ayad,
Aye.
Mike Rocha,
Aye.
Rita Kennahan,
Aye.
Patrick McHugh.
Aye. Motion passes unanimous. Thank you. 9.3, consider, discuss, and vote to amend the transgender policy. No vote here, just discussion.
First read, yeah, first read. So I want to thank Hannah. She took the lead on this and did a terrific job coming with a complete draft today to the meeting. So as you can see, right off the bat, we want to change the name to be more inclusive and call it the Gender Identity and Expression Non-Discrimination Policy. A lot of the words were cleaned up, modernized, more inclusive. It includes some terms. It's just it's a great job adding important wording and considerations and equity to this policy for our students and our staff.
Any questions on this one? It's pretty impressive, Hannah.
Thank you, Patrick.
Yep. 9.4, consider, discuss, and vote to approve a $500 donation to class of 21 for post-celebration via roll call. Superintendent, you want to explain this one quick?
And you and I think I sent you something today. The school committee received another request for a donation, so I'll bring that up the next meeting. The school committee routine through the years has supported the after prom. And so Portsmouth High is planning on a prom and an after prom, obviously with lots of mitigation efforts in place. And so that's their plan now. And if that changes, I think they will reimburse donors. So we've always supported the after prom. We want kids nice and safe, and we don't want them driving late, and we want them occupied and engaged. They're going to pull an all-nighter anyway, generally at prom. So yeah, I'm all for it. I've chaperoned any up.
Thank you. Do you have a motion?
Move.
I just have a question on the, or is it?
Yep,
motion?
go ahead.
Who's the point of contact on that, Lori, who's handling that, please?
Oh, gosh.
There's some, Polly, me and Polly could talk about this.
Yes.
We have seniors and we get inundated with all their emails, and I'm sure I can forward you all their Zoom meetings on this.
Mhm.
You need to know.
It's
The same thing, right?
it's their PST. It's so they call it something
High
else.
school PST, yeah.
PHSO, or there's an O involved in it.
Might
Hannah
know.
might know.
The reason why you get that email today, sorry, Polly, is that they just approved of a post-prom today. Just happened today.
So, but the email read that it might not happen as well.
Right.
The information coming out is hopeful, but I don't think set in stone. I was in a meeting with an admin today who is also hopeful, but also reminded people that it wasn't set in stone. There are certain, as of now, and everything changes, the students have to stay in their pod, which would be their table. And they are allowed to dance, but they can only dance with people that are sitting at their table. And the pods of dancers, or the pods of tables, have to remain 6 feet away from the other, I was gonna say table dancers, but table pod dancers. So they've got a lot of logistics to work out. They're really trying hard. They want to keep everyone safe. I don't think the post-prom will look like past post-proms, because it seems like it would be in the new gym, and also the prom, or I've also seen it called a senior celebration or something like that, would also be in the new gym. So, but to long answer, the PSHO, their PST is basically in charge of it.
So I don't know what you're talking about there, but I got an email today that says post-prom is on. Did you get that email?
I did. Did you keep reading?
I read the whole thing. I just read it now.
And then it's like, if it's a no-go, is actually,
they say if the prom is a no-go, the post-prom is a go.
no, keep reading.
We'll discuss this after.
Okay, I'm right, you're wrong.
You better read the whole thing correctly. Thank
I read it several times, and so.
Again. All right. So do I have a motion?
Moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Vote via roll call, please.
Holly Allen,
Aye.
Anna Ea,
Aye.
Mike Rocha,
Aye.
Rita Kennahan,
Aye.
Patrick McHugh.
Aye, that passes unanimously. Thank you. 9.5, consider discuss the vote to approve any request for information from admin or legal counsel via roll call. Anyone like to get our professionals working?
I would.
You got one, go ahead.
This would be a question for John Anderson. As far as a clarification on subcommittees, if we're not on a subcommittee, to what part can we participate in that meeting? If we have a question or any input, can we or can we not? And how is that different? Being that we're on Zoom, you've made mention of it before. How would that be different from us being in person and participating, in whether we were sitting in an audience or not?
I will be happy to ask the Attorney General for guidance with regard to that issue, but as anybody has the right to sit in the audience, and frankly, the way that you set up Zoom here is that you would not be up as a panelist, you would be out in the audience.
Does that answer your question, Mike?
Not really.
Can you give me a better answer than that, John?
If you're not a member of the, everyone has a right to attend any public meeting. If you're not, you have the right though to be in the audience, not a panelist at the meeting. Otherwise, you would have in this body a quorum of the whole school committee. So you have to participate in the audience, but I'm happy to ask the Attorney General for clarification.
Good enough, Mike?
Yeah, that's fine. So if we're in the audience, we can ask a question of a subcommittee. It's like, I guess it's just what I'm trying
It's
to.
my belief the answer to that is yes, but I will be happy to ask the Attorney General for clarification.
So I need a vote. I need a vote on this. Do you'd like to make a motion, Mike?
Sure.
You want to charge the attorney to do what?
Just to make a I would like to make a motion for John Anderson to clarify whether we can participate in the audience of a subcommittee meeting.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any further discussion on this? I'll take a vote via roll call, please.
Holly Allen,
Aye.
Anna Ea,
Aye.
Mike Rocha,
Aye.
Rita Kennahan,
No.
Patrick McHugh.
Aye. That passes 4-1. Thank you. 9.6, consider a vote to enter executive session under RGL section 4246(5)(a) to via roll call.
Holly Allen,
Aye.
Anna Ea,
Aye.
Mike Rocha,
Aye.
Rita Kennahan,
Aye.
Patrick McHugh.
Aye. All right. Thank you. We're going to return back to open session and we're off to executive. Everybody got their instructions? Okay. Bye-bye. See you in there. Okay, folks, we're in reconvening opening session. No votes were taken in executive session. I will consider a vote to seal the minutes in executive session via roll call.
Holly Allen,
Aye.
Hannah A.
Aye.
Mike Rocha,
Aye.
Rita Kennahan,
Aye.
Patrick McHugh.
Aye. I consider a vote to adjourn via roll call.
Holly Allen,
Aye. Do you want a motion?
Take a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Aye.
Roll call.
Holly Allen,
Aye.
Hannah A.
Aye.
Mike Rocha,
Aye.
Rita Kennahan,
Aye.
Patrick McHugh.
Aye. All right, thank everybody for a long day. Appreciate all your work. Thank you.
You
Aye.
too. Thanks for everything. Good night, everyone.
Right on. Thanks, Laura. Thanks, John Anderson.
Stay safe, everybody.
Bye-bye.